Alright, so let's actually get our content into our web page in Dreamweaver. So I pulled up my document over here that has all my content, and I'm just going to copy it all. And then here we go. I'm going to paste it into the design portion of Dreamweaver. It's on the right over here, you know, the WYSIWYG portion. So this is going to, when I paste it in there, it's going to automatically generate some code for me. And there we go. As you see, on the right I have my content, and on the left I have the actual code that I used to generate it. Pretty useful stuff that Dreamweaver does over here, automatically generating some of the HTML for me. But you're going to see that it also kind of adds some stuff that I don't necessarily want to be in there. Let's first start off with at least formatting our headers, because we know for sure we want these things like Vannevar Bush and biography to be our headers, our H1 and our H2s in our document. Now, with a lot of things in Dreamweaver, you could do the same thing with buttons all over the place. So I'll show you the couple of different ways you could format these things, as well as my favorite way. So probably the way that takes the longest, that you probably want to use the least, is going through the menu bar up top over here. Now, if you highlight a name, highlight the text rather, and go up to Format, Paragraph Format, and click here, then it's going to format it as an H1. That's cool, but honestly, it's not saving me any time, because I could probably, it seems like I'm going through a lot of menus just to get there. Now, you know, Adobe understood that, so they have this property pane over here. And right here, as you see, you still have to highlight it. I'm zooming in, but you see that I have the text highlighted. And over here, under Format, you have the same options. And obviously, if I zoom back, you'll see up top over there, Vannevar Bush, it gets formatted H1. There you go. And that's all right too. But my favorite way is to use shortcut keys, because I could really zip through this kind of thing with the shortcut keys. And if you go back to Format, Paragraph, you see that next to each one of these things you have like these icons and characters. In the Mac, this thing, the arrow up stands for Shift, and the command button, this is the command button or the Apple button. And if you press these three at the same time, it's going to format it as a paragraph. Now, I don't have to really worry about that, because you see when I pasted it in, it did all of those that way. It just put everything as a paragraph. But what's useful is this one and two, basically. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. In the design view, I could just highlight it. I'm going to hit Command 1. And here we go, because that's my big header. Then I'm going to do Command 2, and I'm going to work it all the way down. Now I already see some kind of issue. I have some extra spacing over here, but I'll get back to that in a second. Let me format this, and here we go. Now when I pasted this content in, it was pseudo useful, right? Because this is a paragraph, so that's great. But the rest of these are going to be unordered lists or ordered lists, and anyway, it was worth my while to actually paste it in, so that's fine. But like, check this out. I mean, there's an extra space here, and why is that there? You know, when you rely too much on the design view of Dreamweaver, and you don't pay attention to the code that it's generating, you're going to drive yourself nuts down the road trying to format things, because Dreamweaver makes assumptions, and it adds code like, for example, this, which is just a blank space that it's adding over there. Why it added it there and not somewhere else, I'm not sure. Maybe somewhere, well, let's just go back. Maybe I added a extra space somewhere. I mean, it kind of all looks the same to me, but whatever. That's what it's doing. Don't mind this. This is Apple trying to do updates over there. But anyway, yeah. So it just added that extra space, and that could be a formatting issue down the road, because I didn't necessarily want that. The other thing it'll add, or I just saw it, was this BR. This is like basically how you start a new line without closing a tag. Now, basically meaning instead of using a paragraph again, it'll just add a new line and then close the paragraph. Now, why it's adding this BR here, I don't know. I'd assume that, but what I need to do is clean it up. So, what I'm going to do is go all through my document and look at any extra unnecessary stuff like the BR tag. Now, there is no reason you should be adding spaces to your characters and all that with HTML. HTML is for what? For semantic value only. The period, you know. You could always add extra line spacing or height or any of that. So you really need to stay away from this kind of stuff like it's the plague, because in reality it kind of is the plague when you're styling stuff with CSS, because you're wondering why, you know, you define certain attributes and, well, why is there an extra line all of a sudden over there? And more times than not, when I get those kind of questions, I just look at the code and I go, well, why is there a BR tag there, you know, and it solves the problem. So part of this, at this point, this is what you should be doing. You should have pasted everything in there. You need to define your headers and clean up any of that code that may have generated the BR and those paragraphs with that. And here, I'll show you an exact example of it. This thing over here. Oops. Yeah, there we go. So keep your eye out for BR right here, and the NBSP that Dreamweaver's nested in your document to be helpful. But as I'm explaining to you now, it's not very helpful.